So, in this video we're doing 13-2, absolute value functions and transformation. So, it gives you a table, and it gives you a function, and it says it wants you to graph it. So we want to pick numbers to plug in that'll fit on our graph. So we want numbers that are between, looks like -4 and 4. So I'm going to be simple, and I'm going to do -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2, and see what happens. So there's my chart. I chose those numbers, and I'm going to plug them in and see what happens. Well, if I plug that in to this equation, here it is, nice and big. And I said I'm plugging in -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2, right? So here it is. I'm going to plug those into this equation. So if I plug in -3 here, I get this. -3 minus -3, -3 minus 3 is -6. And then when I do absolute value, I get 6. Well, 6 plus 2 is 8. So -3 gets me 8. If I repeat this process and do it for 2, absolute value of -2 minus 3 plus 2, well, that's -5. And then -5, put in absolute value, well, -5 is 5 in absolute value. And 5 plus 2 is 7. Well, if we keep following this trend, we should see 6 here. Let's see if we do. If we plug in -1, we get -4. 4 is what we get when we do absolute value. Add 2, we get 6. If we do 0, 0 minus 3 is -3. Absolute value of that is 3. Add 2, we get 5. 1 minus 3 is -2. Absolute value of -2 is 2. Add 2, we get 4. Plug in 2. 2 minus 3 is -1. Absolute value of that is 1. Then we get plus 2, and that's 3. So you'll notice we didn't get the V here, right? It just keeps decreasing. So we need to add on some more numbers to figure out where that V is. I'm going to plot those points now. And I'm going to show you an easier way to do it than what they're asking you to do here. So we got -3 was 8, -2 is 7, then we've got 6, 5, 4, and 3. Well, my graph doesn't go high enough for anything above 4, really, maybe 5. So I'm going to ignore those points, and I'm going to do 0, 5. 0, 5, 1, 4, and 2, 3. If I did -1, 6, I'd be off the chart. So I'm not going to do that. What I am going to do is I'm going to notice that this thing has a -3 here and a +2 there. So my vertex should be at 3. Remember, we changed the sign for this one, 2. So if I go to 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, well, that would have been my next point. And you can tell from here, the slope is up 1 over 1 each time, right? And that's true because there's nothing in front of there, right? So this should be my graph. Now I can make a chart over here as well and fill these out. I would encourage you to choose some numbers, fill it out. I'll do one of them for you. Let's plug in, how about -1? If I do -1, I get -1 plus 1. Well, that's 0. Absolute value of 0 is 0. Times 2 is 0. Subtract 2 is -2. Okay, and you can plot that, -1, -2, right? Fair enough, you can do that for all the rest. But I'm going to plot this using my knowledge of how this works. I know the standard form is ax minus h plus k. And so h and k are going to be my vertex. H and k. So here we change the sign, -1, and then we keep the sign of the next one, -2. And that's my vertex. So -1, -2. So it turns out this point right here, the one I chose, is actually my vertex. That's kind of exciting. So now I look at this. The 2 is kind of like my slope, right? So it's going to go up 2 over 1 because it's a +2, up 2 over 1. And we know this is supposed to be a V. And this is my vertex, so the other side must open up this way, up 2, back 1. And if I keep doing that, I'll find all the other points. So keep doing that, and I've got my graph. Much quicker than plugging in all those points and trying to figure out what you get. So it says also to tell the domain and range. Well, the domain of this function is from -infinity to +infinity. all the way to positive infinity. So x is between this and this. And the range is between 2, right? It starts here as low as it goes, and infinity. So y is between 2 and infinity. For this one, the domain is, well, it can go as far left and right as it wants, right? It goes on forever this way and that way. So it's from negative infinity to positive infinity. Whoops. Let me rewrite that. And the range, well, that goes from as low as -2 for y, all the way up to infinity, right? As far as you want. That v goes on forever vertically. But it only goes as low as 2. It doesn't go down any further. It doesn't go any lower than -2, I should say. All right, so 3 and 4, it says, write an equation for each absolute value function whose graph is shown. Okay, so they give you the graph. We need to find the function. Remember, the standard form is f of x equals a, absolute value x, minus h, closed, plus k, where h and k is the vertex. So our vertex is right here for this guy. So that means my h is going to be -1, and k is going to be +1. Well, when I plug these into the formula, I get a x minus h. So whatever h is, I'm supposed to subtract that. So 2 negatives here. 2 negatives make a positive, so that's going to be a +1. That makes sense because it's 1 to the left. Remember, we changed the sign. And then k is just whatever k is, right? It says plus whatever k is, so +1. Now to find out what my a is, I do the slope, right? And if you can tell, I've got a nice point right here, and the slope between them is up 1 over 1. So my a is just 1, meaning that my equation is just this. F of x equals 1, which I'm not going to write, absolute value of x plus 1 plus 1. 1 to the left, 1 up is my vertex, and then my slope is up 1 over 1 because there's nothing in front of there. Opening upwards because it's positive. From here, I know my vertex is here. So my h in this case is going to be 2, and my k is going to be 2 as well. 2 to the right and 2 up. Now when I plug this into the formula, right, there's already a minus next to the h. So I plug that in and I get x minus whatever h is plus k, 2. And this checks out because the minus, remember we changed the sign and that tells us 2 to the right. And then this is plus 2 and it goes 2 up. So that's where our vertex is. Now, if you notice, this opens downward, so it's going to be negative, right? And the slope, quote unquote, is down 1 over 1. So it's just a 1 over 1 thing again. So really, it's just this. I don't need to write all that in front of there. It's just minus the absolute value of x minus 2, closed, plus 2. So f of x is going to equal this. And that's it for this one. I'm not going to have you do number 5. Don't worry about it. That's it. I'm also going to go into a little bit of I give you the graph. I've done the I give you the graph and you write the equation. I'm going to do the other way around. So I'm going to write the equation and we'll make the graph. Just real quick. We've been doing a little bit of that in our past videos, but I want to make sure you can do it even with a complicated equation. So if I give you this equation, f of x equals negative 2/3 absolute value of x minus 2 plus 3. Well, the first thing I do, after drawing my coordinate plane, of course, is I plot the vertex. Well, our vertex is going to be 2, because remember we changed the sign in this guy, 3. So 2, 3 is our vertex. Over 2, up 3. Remember that's a horizontal shift, so 2 to the right, and then 3 up is what happens to our whole vertex. And then instead of just going up 1 over 1 like my normal one, I have a slope that I need to deal with, an a value, right? It's our slope. So it's down 2 over 3. 1, 2, 3. So that's my next point. And because we know absolute value works as a v, and this is our vertex, we know that it must open up the other way as well. So down 2, back 3. And we can keep doing this if we want to extend our v out, right? And it goes on forever in these directions. And that's the graph. I'm going to do one more. I'm going to give you f of x equals, let's do 5 halves absolute value of x plus 4, and with nothing on the side. Okay, so our vertex is going to be this guy with the sign change, -4, and then a 0 is here, right? There's really a hidden plus 0. So 0 is what we have for our k. There's nothing, right? There's nothing for our k. So that's our vertex. So -4 comma 0. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's our vertex. And then we do up 5 over 2 for our slope. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over 2. And because this is absolute value, and we know this is our vertex, we know it's opening up because it's positive. And that's our right side of our v, so now we need to make the left side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over 2. And we can keep doing this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over 2. And there's our v. So that's it for absolute value. That's how you graph them given the equation. You find your vertex first, and then you use your slope, quote unquote, right? And if I give you the graph, and you want to make the equation, first you find your vertex, you write out your h and k, plug them in to the formula, and then you use the slope again to find out what a is. Remember, upwards opening is positive, downwards opening is negative. See you in class. Best of luck on the quiz.